welcome back to another episode of the Hunt Lift Eat podcast, brought to you by Hunt Lift Eat Official on the Instagrams. The boys are back. The boys are back and better than ever.
Man,
Finally, after how long? How long has this been since this crew's been together?
way too long. We need to call Scotty ASAP. Someone just call him live on air.
I don't know how to do that.
I mean, this is almost as long as the last time Carter sent an email or checked his inbox.
That is fair. I was actually checking my emails before this, and it was too many. Got overwhelmed, closed them out.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, the boys are back. Carter here, the old standby, joined by old time listeners, longtime listeners will know and remember. We got Bobby McCready here and the one and only Kaleb Bell coming at us from Colorado. So stoked to have you guys here, guys.
You too, brother, man. It's been way too long since we've all had a chance to get together and just cut it up and catch back up on life. Should be a fun night.
Yeah, definitely agree. I forget how to do this podcast stuff. We just interrupt each other and talk over each other, right? Like that's the goal.
That's the goal.
All right, cool. Got it. Expert.
I'm back. I'm so back.
Oh, we're back, baby. I didn't get a big yell from you.
No, it is freaking awesome. I've been looking forward to this. And it's like a really good reminder. Like, I don't know, longtime listeners will remember the three of us running all sorts of Hunt Lift Eat stuff, but especially the podcast. A couple years ago when Luke was overseas and real busy and on a crazy different time zone schedule, and we talked every day and every night. I mean, almost incessantly. The three of us and our boy Scotty, and you guys were massively helpful in some of the early undertakings of the company. And my wife lovingly referred to both of you as my work wives, and for the job that we did for free, the volunteer job.
Yeah. Kayla goes, "What are you doing tonight?" I go, "I got a podcast to do." She's like, "You still do those things?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're still doing them."
Once in a blue moon, yeah. But it's a really good reminder. Like, we were like real hot and heavy in the podcast zone, and we were talking all the time, and then life happens, dude. And I kind of, relationships are really important to me, right? Some good advice that I got early on in life is invest in good people, and you guys are good people, and super appreciate your friendship. So I guess maybe early call to action is, reach out to folks who maybe you used to be in contact with all the time and were your people, and life happens and things fall off and you get busy and you have kids and you move, and Bobby's dog is always going into surgery and Caleb's always killing big giant things, and like life happens, man. And yeah, I'm really glad that we're back together and able to catch up like this and have that opportunity.
It's funny though, right? You talk about that catching up and keeping in touch with people. It's like you never skip a beat though with the good ones, right? And I think that's the same thing in hunting partners and friendships and life in general. You find those ones that no matter how long it's been since you guys have actually gotten together, and you don't skip a beat. You just cut right back into the way life was beforehand. And we've all stayed in contact. We've all been in touch since the podcast days. But shoot, man, it's crazy to see what life's turned into and see where we're all at right now. I know some things have changed for Carter and Bobby and myself too. And it's been a fun. What I guess it's probably been Bobby maybe a year longer since we've been on a podcast.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's been over a year since we've seen face to face in Denver. It's been some time, man. It all seems like it was like weeks ago.
Yeah, man. I think that's a good kind of call to action at the beginning, dude. And there's no excuses, right? It's easy to pick up the phone and FaceTime, and Kaleb, you and I have done a little job this hunting season, just here and there, man. I know you're busy and you've got extra people in your life, and Bobby and I have been trying to make an effort the last couple months too, and we're already talking about what are we going to hunt next fall, man? What are we going to be chasing together? Because it's lifelong hunting buddies, man. It's like you said, you can pick up right where you left off, and I know we're going to be hunting together anyway.
I mean, with that being said, though, Bobby, I know our sights are set on a mule deer hunt, but if you remember right, when we did the podcast with who was it, the Nomadic Outdoorsman with Dan,
Yeah,
we talked about going to Florida and chasing iguanas with a blowgun.
that's
And
true.
I'm kind of thinking we got to full send it back to the nostalgic eras and go shoot some blowguns at iguanas.
You do realize I just got back from Florida, and for like every day, that's all I could think about is I wonder if we could blow dart iguanas. I'm at Disney, and I'm thinking about blow darting iguanas with a giant mouse running at you. It happens.
Yeah, dude. Well, it's good to be back together, guys. We want to talk about you, Caleb. You've had a hell of a year, actually. You've been super busy, man, and you've been getting after it, dude. And I want to talk about some of your successes and catch up on some of your hunts here in a long form way. That's better than a FaceTime when I have a screaming child in the bathtub yelling at me and all that kind of stuff. So we got some time to carve out here, man.
Dude, that's awesome that you guys have been paying attention. And the other side of it too, though, I mean, shoot, we've all had a lot of success in the woods this year. Carter, you shot your first bull elk. We've got all
That was
sorts of fun stuff to talk about. But yeah, dude, it's been a crazy ride. I'd say over the past 24 months, things have gotten wild and crazy. I'm stepping into the stepdad role of 4 daughters, which is phenomenal, but makes me feel old every day. Love those girls to death, but they definitely cause me gray hair. And I'm not gonna lie to you, my favorite thing about hunting, regardless so far, is the random different cuts of meat that I like to eat. And I fry them up and I make them taste good and I don't tell them what it is until after they're mid mouthful. I did that with some heart the other day. I just shot that really good 188-inch muley with my bow like a week ago. And I finally remembered, oh shoot, I got the heart in the refrigerator. So I slapped that son of a gun on the fryer up last night and they're all diving into it knuckle deep. And I was like, hey, guess what you're eating? Oh, steaks? No, that's heart. Every one of them turned green in the gills. It's great. It's some
but
of
they
my favorite things that we'll start introducing these kiddos to the way, the heritage that we've got. We've always talked about it's been a big passion of mine. And one of the roles that I play, I'm on the board of directors for the Colorado Bowhunters Association. And I have started a grassroots youth outreach program. And that is the most important thing I think I could say outside of becoming a stepdad in the past year. Don't get me wrong, I've killed some great animals and had some good hunts, but that's probably the most important thing that's happened to me over the past year. And it's been fun, but it's been busy. It's been chaotic.
Yeah, man. Can you talk about that youth outreach program? This has been a passion project of yours for as long as I've known you. You've been talking about it. Maybe not this one specifically, but I know you used to take kids in foster homes out fishing and in the outdoors and things like that, man.
Yeah, so it's just how do I put it into words, right? Like we have been lucky our entire lives that we've been exposed to the outdoor industry. Whether it's going on hikes, hunting, fishing, I don't really care what it is. We've all been very lucky. Most people listening to this podcast are the same way. It wasn't until I started working with the Mayfly Project and taking foster kids out to on fly fishing trips that I realized like there's a lot of kids out there that have never had this opportunity. And if they aren't exposed to it, and I don't really care if it's hunting or fishing, right? All I want is the outdoors. I don't care. I just want to expose them to what a park is, to what wildlife is, to what fish are. And I realized that there's a lot of good programs out there. You've got Boy Scouts of America, Girl Scouts of America, and a couple other programs, but there's nothing that's tailored to the rural experience and taking people on short notice and getting them into the outdoors from a camp level. Boy Scouts of America is a huge, huge program, but it's also a huge commitment for parents. It's also a huge commitment for the kids. So I created a program with Colorado Bowhunter Association that's really going to be rolling out here by 2026. We call it Spark. And the whole purpose being is to have a program that ignites that passion that we as outdoorsmen already have in the next generation. Our classes are all tailored around friendly environments to get kids to understand what it's like to go camping, to teach them how to build a fire and survive in the woods if they get lost from their parents, to teach them about different wildlife species, to teach them how to hunt, to teach them how to fish, teach them how to shoot, teach them how to sleep in the woods for heaven's sakes, right? To identify plants, everything. It's kind of a huge conglomerate of just general outdoor education, and I've got a lot of good partners with it. It's going to be an absolute epic adventure, and I probably will lose my hair in the process, but it's going to be phenomenal. And at the end of the day, right, like we always talk about leaving a legacy behind, and this is a huge thing for me because if we can expose the next generation to the outdoors and get them involved to the level of which we have, it means there's going to be a national park in the future, right? There's going to be kids that want to hunt, fish, survive. They're going to be exposed to it, and we're no longer going to see threats and potential loss of our heritage and who we are. You know, here in Colorado, that's a big thing. We're constantly fighting ballot box biology. This is just a different way for me to fight it, right? Teach people about the outdoors rather than reactively teach them when it comes down to a battle in the long run. I want to be proactive and teach the kids. It'll be fun, man. It's going to be a wild ride.
Yeah, it's fantastic, man. And one of my favorite things Luke always says is like, we don't want to be reactive, right? And that applies to, especially with this big fight you guys just had in Colorado and the, glimpse of success that we saw at the, on election day in Colorado, with the proposition that was turned down, which is fantastic. But it's like, okay, small victory, but what's the next step, right? And I think educating the younger generation, selfishly as a teacher, like, of course, I think that's the most important thing, but that's massive, dude, right? I had so many people just message me on Instagram, like, what is this? Like friends who have transplants who have moved to Colorado, like, what is this? What should I, you know, what do I need to know about this? Right. Friends from Georgia who have moved out and live in Denver because
Oh yeah.
that's the cool thing to do. I'm like, yes, you need to go vote. You need to be aware of this, and they weren't, right. They weren't even aware of the proposition, and it's worded in a way where it would be very easy for somebody to vote against it, right?
Yeah. And I mean that's probably one of the biggest issues that I see, and that's the reason why I want to focus on the next generation, not from a political aspect, but education aspect. You know, as a public, even hunters in today's society are lacking basic knowledge when it comes to certain things because other people want to hide the meaning behind it, right? Yeah, I want to go buy a piece of cake, but is that cake filled with icing or is it filled with ice cream? Well, all you see is the cake, right? It's one of
Yeah.
those weird things, and I'm going to do my part, and the entire organization is going to do our part. Because if we don't, then all we're doing is sitting idle. We're part of the problem. So we're going to fix it one day at a time.
And I don't think it's a regional, I would assume here. You guys let me know what you guys are seeing in your woods, but I don't think it's a regional thing. Here in the South, people talk about how there's a lack of woodsmanship or even a decline in woodsmanship in general amongst hunters. Um, and it's very easy to like have a strong lack of woodsmanship these days with, cell cameras and like whatever, right? It's like if you have a little bit of cash, like it's easy to just go out there and shoot deer or whatever, you know what I mean? And not be able to
Yep.
identify plant species and all the things you're talking about, like learn how to actually sleep in the woods and like learn deer behavior and habitat behavior and things like that. So starting it with the kids, like I want to enroll, you know what I mean? Like sign me up. It's
Yep.
you're always learning, right? And hopefully you're never not learning.
Well, I can create a special age classification just for you and Bobby. We can call it the toddler stage. And you know, we can probably get you guys involved.
That's fine with me.
Walk
I'm
No,
through
man,
okay
you
as
can
long as I'm there.
yeah.
you
We
couldn't
expect to
hit the
see
nail
you.
more on the head, right? We have got to
Yeah.
take that next step in educating. I had probably 100 people this year message me on Facebook or on Instagram or whatever it might have been after they harvested an animal with their kid, being like, "What do I do? I want to get away from that.
Yeah.
I want everybody to know, and I want to give it a safe opportunity for you to be able to volunteer your child to teach them a life skill. I want to know that I want kids to know beef doesn't just come from a grocery store, right? Like I want them to know that, oh my gosh, that moose that's standing on the side of the road is a very rare animal. But if I tried really hard and I knew how to do it, I could potentially hunt that and provide for my family. And you talk about that, Carter, and we segue that right into where the hunting seasons were at this year.
Yeah.
I took Christy out this year. Yeah, she's hunted before. She hunted with me last year, but this was the first year that was her opportunity to put in the grind and provide for the family. And it's the same concept as it is with kids, right? Introducing new people to hunting. It was epic, miserably epic, but
Yeah.
absolutely epic.
Yeah, man. The reward on the mentor side of things, especially when it's somebody you love, is like I've now entered that stage of my life where that is superior to any animal that I get to chase for myself.
Oh yeah.
But it's just like reliving my first deer hunt all over again, my first elk hunt all over again. Except for me, every time I go hunting, it's like that because I get excited like a little schoolgirl. Um, but I think the most rewarding side of it for me this year is Christy was never really big into the outdoors. She's always been a farm girl, lived the lifestyle, but she's never been big into hunting. And when she was introduced into hunting, it was in a very negative way, right? Like, so she had this thought behind it that I was going to nag her and I would be mad about her performance in the woods, how she didn't do this, how she didn't do that. She had this really negative connotation around what being in the outdoors was. So it was kind of eye opening for me, um, because and I'm not like talking about her as an object. She's my badass partner in life, but like taking a step back and realizing, okay, how do you introduce somebody to something that's had a negative experience in it, right? Not just somebody who's never been involved, somebody who's had a negative experience. I know there's a lot of other men out there that want to take their wives or their girlfriends hunting, and it might just be a new introduction to the process. But she's been around. She had no desire to do it because it was always negative. It was always pick your feet up off the ground, you're being too loud, get your crap together. And it was an eye-opening experience for me, and I had to tone it back a little bit. I'm kind of a hardcore guy. Uh, my first elk hunt for the year, I picked up a really good muzzleloader tag in Colorado. I'm an archery guy, but I couldn't turn down the tag when I saw it on the leftover list. And I joined the army of people clicking at a million miles an hour on a Wednesday to see if I could pick it up. And I got lucky and I picked it up. I hunted hard 12 days for that bull, and I'd never seen him once on the mountain. And the entire time I thought to myself, I was like, all right, Christy's going to come up here opening weekend with me. I'd been here before, it's scouted. How do I make this enjoyable for her so she doesn't absolutely hate it?
Yeah.
And you've got to be able to understand that you're just out there having fun, right? Like, yeah, I'm going to harvest now. The fact that we would stop on the side of the trail and we'd play cards for an hour when we were tired, or, we hike for 10 miles and then we'd be like, all right, well, this sucks. Let's sit down and watch half a Netflix movie at 13,000 feet just to make it fun again or something.
Right. Right.
It's understanding and taking a step out of your own hunting style and bringing somebody into it and getting them involved. That opening weekend that she showed up, it was kind of a shit show. Can we still cuss on this podcast? I mean, we used to be pretty bad about it, but
Yeah. 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 No rules.
I'll just say shenanigans, right? I'm getting really good at that. Having four younger girls, I can't cuss. I'm gonna say shark sickles or shenanigans. That opening weekend, she came up that Friday beforehand, and she pulls up to the trailhead, and I wasn't paying attention, and she picked me up, and I was like, "Oh, I'll drive back to my truck, and let's drop off all your stuff so we don't have to walk it all the way back up here a mile." In that 30 seconds that we turned around, I left my truck unlocked. There's nobody around. My door on my truck's wide open and my camera's laying on the ground. Like, what in the flip flop? And I get out of the truck, I walk my truck, and here comes this 300-pound freaking black bear with my entire 12-day supply of backpacking food in my dry bag, like in my compressed dry bag, in his mouth. And he steps out of the truck and looks at me like, haha, I win. That dude didn't know that I had my Crocs in four-wheel drive. I didn't have a pistol on me, but my Crocs were four-wheel drive.
You're ready.
She slams that truck in park. I about hit the door on the process because, I just slammed the door wide open. I take off after this bear like 10 minutes before dark because if he gets away with all that backpacking food, I got to figure it all out again, and that's going to make me mad. Sprinting after this bear, Crocs in four-wheel drive at like 10,500 feet, screaming, hey, bear, running blindly through the woods at dark.
Trying to
I
get your
won.
food.
I got my food back. By the time I got back to the truck, that bear was less than 10 yards behind me, walking behind me. So he'd done it before. And that bear and I fought all week, that entire hunting season. We were back and forth, back and forth. The saying, you never go to elk camp without a bear tag. I'll make sure I don't do that again. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was kind of a fun way to start the hunt off. And then, that opening weekend, it was how hard I wanted to go. I had to make sure I dialed it back down to keep her involved because I want her to go hunting with me again. Like I want her to get into archery hunting. I bought her a bow for her birthday this year. I want her next year to be able to say like, all right, here we go. I want to go. You're not going to die and you'll be okay. I promise you. Let's try it and see what happens. So that first weekend, we probably put on 15 miles just hiking from the trailhead, checking out the basins and seeing where we're at. But it was at a comfortable pace. And at the end of it, like she actually enjoyed it. And you as a hunter, you as the guy, or you as the other person in the relationship, whether it's, your wife's extremely into hunting and you're not, or you're into hunting and your wife's not, you've got to dial it back down to their level of comfort, get them involved and let them have a little bit of fun with it.
Yeah, I think it's a two-way street, right? And having that communication is really important, especially from the comfort level of things. Um, and not forcing it, right? It's something I think about all the time with my two daughters. Like I want them to grow up and love the same things I want, that I love. I want them to want to go hunting with me. And I need to like remind myself that may not be the case, right? They may not love it like I do. And you don't want to force it, right? Because forcing it is a really good way to have somebody end up hating it forever and go in the
Oh yeah.
opposite direction. So
Oh
they
yeah.
have to have
Especially when they're ultra competitive.
some,
You
yeah,
know,
that's right.
Christy's one of those people that she's diehard competitive. We'd go to the archery range after after I got her bow set up, and her first 6 arrows out of the bow weren't dead nuts center of the bullseye, and she was mad.
Yeah,
Never shot a bow in her life.
yeah, archery's dumb.
So you got to be able to convey that message, and like you said, you got to be able to communicate right. And ultimately, that led to one of the most epic hunting seasons for the rest of the year. That's for sure. It's been wild. Yeah, I don't even know where to start. We spent that opening weekend, and she had to go back down to work. And over the next 6 days, I was in elk every day. It was fun. They were bugling pretty okay, but they weren't going wild like I expected them to. I called in a really good like 330, 340 bull to less than 10 feet. But I couldn't shoot him because he was in an area that I couldn't shoot him. So I played cat and mouse with that bull the rest of the morning, chasing him all around where I was at. And I finally had him at 60 yards and he wouldn't clear the tree. So that was like a devastating moment in the hunt, right? And at that point, I was like, all right, this sucks.
Yeah.
And I kind of split everything up on that hunt. And I had a base camp at 10,000 feet, and I had a spike camp that was just over 12.5. And spike camp was like 6 miles from my base camp. So at that point, I was like, screw this. I'm going high. I'm going to see what I can find. I spent 3 days at spike camp and didn't see a freaking thing other than other hunters. And I was like, what on earth is happening right now? I give up on life. I'm done. Throwing in the towel. So I actually come back down that Friday, that last Friday of the season. I was like, you know what? It's our Friday night date night. She's going to allow me to hunt as much as I want to. I need to do something for her. So I screamed off the trail Friday night. I packed up my spike camp, hauled butt down the hill, showed up at the house. She had no idea, and we went on our date night. And that next morning, we were getting a heavy, nasty snowstorm, supposedly. So I wake up at the butt crack of dawn. I'm like, hey, love you long time. I'll see you after a while. She's like, oh, I'm like, nope. I came down. Love you. Come on. That was my decent level of communication. And I
That's
get
right.
back up to the trailhead at like 4 a.m., probably 2 hours before daylight. And just kind of sitting there freezing. It's not bad. There isn't any snow or anything yet. And I wasn't really believing the forecast. And I'm sitting there at the trailhead glassing the same places I had been. And I spotted a small herd of elk, probably about 4 miles up the canyon. And I knew there was a bull, but I didn't know what it was. I could just see that it was a good bull. So I spent the next 4 hours getting into position where I wanted to be. And when I finally got into where I wanted to be, I knew the area really well because that buck that's actually back there on the wall, that hounded buck, he died less than 200 yards from where I spotted that bull. I was like, oh, perfect. I know this. I know exactly what's going to happen. I know how they're going to work. I know where they're going to be. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to shoot an elk. Like, here we go. So I get in there and no, like silence of the lambs.
Yeah.
I'm working my way up this stupid avalanche chute and I keep going and I keep going and I keep going. And I get to the bowl. And the bowl is where I was like, that's my game point. That's where I'm going to kill an elk. Well, there's not. At about 2:30, I heard a bugle rip, maybe 300 yards from where I was at. So I was like, okay, they're still here. I got time. This is really the last evening for me to hunt unless I want to stay all the way through Sunday night. So full send it. Here we go. The wind wasn't the best, so I kind of skirted my way up into the scree fields so I could see down a couple hundred yards, but it kind of left me open and exposed. Well, I get around that little bowl that I was in, and immediately 3 cows, less than 100 yards. Here we go. Well, shenanigans. All right. This is not good. I'm wide open, and there's nothing I could do. Got it. Well, that bull just started torching off. The temperature started dropping crazy. It probably went from 55 degrees down to like 35 in a matter of 20, 30 minutes. Well, I ripped out a couple cow calls. Those cows below me knew immediately where the cow call was coming from. I managed to get behind some rocks, so at least they couldn't physically see me. And that bull just started torching off. Well, and this is when I get the first look at him. He crossed out at like 130 yards. And that's when I saw what he was, and I about pooped my pants. Well, okay, there was no about. I did. I pooped my pants. I've never seen an elk like this in the woods on public land in Colorado ever. This is the crap you see at Rocky Mountain National Park, in my opinion. So for the
So
next 30
he's a
minutes, 40
decent
minutes,
bull.
I watched the elk. Yeah, like for the next 30, 40 minutes, I watched this elk. And he's just at 130 yards behind a tree, back and forth, working his cows, and I can't do anything.
Your
Well, off in the distance,
muzzleloader.
yeah, with a muzzle loader.
So you
And,
want
I'm
him in
cranking it up
100?
to like 150. Like
No.
I'd shoot at 150 with my muzzleloader. I feel confident in it, but he just would never give me a shot. So I heard another bugle, probably half a mile from where he was, further up the mountain, and he did not like it. He grabbed his cows and skirted the hell out of there. Wasn't having it. Didn't want anything to deal with it. So here I am with proverbial pants down, trying to figure out how the heck I'm going to make this work in the next hour and a half before it hits dark. And the skies open up, and it's a straight sideways blizzard. Went from 50 degrees to a freaking blizzard. It was stupid, but it was awesome. It was epic. So I kept kind of tailing that herd and working it, and I could hear that other bull working closer to the herd too. So I was like, all right, maybe this will work in my favor. Ultimately, I covered another 200, 300 yards, pretty much right back to where I started, right at the base of the bowl. Had I sat there, I would have had a shot probably like 20 yards on the guy. Well, I get in those rocks, and the cows are working, and the bull's working the cows, and he's at 90 yards. And he just, same thing, will not stop. Just running around in circles, back and forth, trying to mount cows, push cows. Here we go, everywhere, left, right. Well, I started cow calling just to see if I could get him to stop. Well, in the process, that other bull worked in 13 yards from me, and I didn't know it. He came out right below me
Oh my
at
gosh.
like 13 yards, and I was kind of in this giant boulder field. So I
Yeah.
was hidden. I was standing completely upright behind a rock, but I could see everything. You like the bull below me couldn't see me, and he was only 13 yards away. Well, he's this little raghorn five. And the whole meantime, I'm over here texting Christy on my Garmin. Holy shit, this is happening right now. I don't know what's happening. Oh shit, there's a small bull. I'm gonna shoot this bull. And she's over here right back, like, don't shoot the small one. Wait for a shot of the big one. And I'm
It's a
like,
good
who are
partner.
you and what did I create? Like, what is happening right now? And so I'm like sitting there contemplating shooting this little bull because he's at 13 yards, he's at 40 yards, and he's broadside. I came on this mountain to shoot me. Well, that little bull disappears, and that big bull starts to kind of crest the ridge and go over the next valley. So I'm getting ready to make my move. And that little bull finally got a little bit of hair on his hoo-hots and ripped off a bugle. And that was game over. That big bull came screaming back over top of the hill, pushed all his cows right back to that sucker, turned broadside at 90 yards, and then turned around before I could take a shot. And as he turned around and started to kind of slowly walk off, I put a quartering away shot with that muzzleloader, exited right out his left lung, and I was freaking out. Had no idea what it just.
Yeah.
The text change on my Garmin was probably somewhere near straight chaos. Christy was probably wondering if I'd lost my mind. And it's a straight sideways blizzard. So in my mind, I'm like, holy crap, I am in this nasty area that I have no idea how to get out of in dark. And I just shot an elephant. Like, this is the biggest bull elk that I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
So I get over there to where he was. I watch his cows kind of work up the hill and away. And this all happens in like that. It's pushing like 5 o'clock at this point. And I watch his cows walk away. So I get over there and I can see him still standing, but he's shaking his head low. Classic signs of a quartering away shot. Still has one lung to live, kind of messed up guts, not feeling too good, not too happy. So I sneak into 20 yards on him and I put another shot straight through the heart. He runs like 30 yards, and I didn't even like took the shot and I knew exactly where I hit. And I was like, I threw my muzzle over to one side. I turned around. I was like screaming and jumping up and around in the air. It was the worst moment as a hunter that you could ever be, right? Like, I didn't watch the elk. I didn't do anything. And then when it all hit me, I turned around. I was like, shit, where'd he go? And this is all in a matter of like 10 seconds. And all I heard was, like, done. Game on, dead bull elk. Here we go. I get up there, and this son of a biscuit buries his face in between two junipers and gnarls his head in sideways and is like laying upside down and sideways in these two trees. I'm all 130 pounds soaking wet kind of guy. And it took me 5 hours to quarter that bull out and figure out how I could get him to where he was off that mountain. And I took half of him off in one load. I just deboned the fronts, the back straps, and I called in help at midnight. I text Christy. I'm like, this is not okay. There's 6 to 8 inches of snow on the ground right now, and I have no way out. No
Yeah.
idea how to get to where it. Kind of one of those scary situations.
Yeah.
And the whole time she's just giving you those words of encouragement, right? Like same stuff that I did with her during the whole hunt. Like, you can do this, you got this. Well, I finally get down to the bottom of the trail without breaking my face, which was gnarly. And I called in her and I was like, hey, I need some help. Tomorrow I need you to come pack out an elk with me. You're going from looking at elk and seeing elk to you're going to pack an elk out. Here we go. So needless to say, she called in one of our other buddies. He shows up with a Badlands fanny pack because his dad's in Unit 76 racing archery elk, and he gave his dad his frame pack. I gave him a hard time about that. His new nickname's Fanny Pack.
Yeah.
He's a trooper. He helped pack that bull out. Finally, after everything's all said and done, we couldn't walk out. The hill was so steep, and where he was at, we actually sat on our asses and were sledding down the hill with the elk on our back. It was too sketchy to walk. You'd hit a
Yeah.
rock and it wouldn't feel very good. But you had your trekking poles out, your feet out, and you're just the whole way down. It was pretty phenomenal and epic.
That's
But
wild.
yeah, needless to say, as of right now, that bull is just over 384 gross screen score. He's going in for record books here. Hopefully, in the next week or so, he can finally get scored. That was insane.
That is insane. Did you know once you got him down, you were like, this is, awesome to have meat and, take care of that on the mountain. But when you walked up to him, you were like, oh my gosh, this is something
Oh
special.
yeah. At that point, I was like, this is bigger than my other bull. And my
Yeah.
other bull was not a
Yeah.
slouch. Like,
No
my other bull was
slouch.
a 340 archery bull.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd see another bull like that, let alone shoot one. And I walked up to him and I was like, well, I quit. Done. Retired.
Yeah.
Never doing it again.
Go out
You
on
put one
top.
on top. Here we go.
I'll
That's
take
freaking-
over
It
for
all
your
comes back down.
retirement.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll
please,
fill in
all
anytime
by
you
all
need.
means.
Yeah.
So a team
I
player.
promise you, though, the one thing that we have to make an agreement on is I'm never shooting an elk in the backwoods again. If you don't shoot it in the middle of a 2-track, I'm not doing it.
Man, that's freaking unbelievable. I didn't have that. Mine was kind enough to run to the bottom of a canyon and die 10 feet from the road. So
Oh.
we could load him up right into a truck, which was sick.
You're
He
so
died
spoiled.
in the
I'm
bed
so
of the
jealous.
truck.
Yeah, no blizzard, no nothing.
Yeah, but man, that's so epic though that you had the opportunity to do that. When we're talking about our spouses, what did the wife say when you're like, "Hey, I'm going to go to Colorado. I'm going to chase elk with a bow"?
She was stoked, man. She was like, she wanted it as bad or if not more than I did. And I called her. I was like, I shot a good one, right, for my first elk. Can I? You cool if I shoulder mount this thing? She's like, yeah, do it. It's your first one. You got it. It's your first
love
one.
it.
You got it. I was like, yes, we're so in. Now we got to get Bobby his first one. It's insane, Bobby. It's silly how big they are. It's crazy.
I'd be like, Caleb, I just shit my pants, and you'd be like, oh, that's not even a big one, and I'll be like, oh, I'm just shitting my pants anyway because it's an elk. So,
And it's even like even small elk are big.
Yeah.
Yeah, Christy's first bull elk. She shot her first bull elk this year, and we walk up on that thing. I'm like, all right, it's a good bull. And you start thinking and breaking it down. You're like, all right, well, this hind's 120 pounds. This hind's 120 pounds. These two fronts are both 80. These back
Yeah.
straps are 60 pounds. Like you start breaking this elk out and you're looking at it and you're like, this is not a little animal.
No.
yeah,
That yeah, we've had quite the heck of a year.
Wow, that's unbelievable, man.
Very
That's
blessed
fantastic
by all means. Man.
for sure. And the, highs and lows of hunting, man, even with the success, like I've felt that feeling before where you're like, all right, this is amazing, but okay, this could be kind of dangerous, right? Even doing stuff at night doesn't always make me feel great. Like I don't like particularly tracking at night. Whitetail back home, right? And, we don't have blizzards or nothing like that, but even then, right, a lot can go wrong. You get turned around, especially if you're up there by yourself, dude. A lot can go wrong. So having the wherewithal to take a breath and be like, all right, you know, regroup and be like, all right, we're good. We can do this. I got help coming in the morning. Like, we can do this. And it's awesome that nobody got hurt and they were able to get up there and help you and sharing that success with you.
Yeah, man, you couldn't be more true on that. We go straight into her first antelope hunt, which was Kate. That was nothing super wild and crazy, which she harvested a great buck. But then we talk about her elk hunt, and she had a first season rifle tag in an area that I've grown up hunting my entire life. I know that place like the backside of my hand. I know where I'm going to find elk. I know where we're not going to find elk, and I hate it. I freaking hate the place
Because you
because
know the
it's
playbook or why?
it's 90 degrees during the day,
Ah,
every freaking day, all the way up until second or third season, and then it's 4 foot of snow.
yeah,
But then at night, even when it's 90 or 80 during the day, it's that low desert area. So during the night, it gets down in the 10s and 20s. It
yeah,
gets super cold. That's the whole reason the elk are in there. Well, it was kind of slow. That Friday night before season opener, we saw 4 or 5 good 6 points, and this is her first true elk hunt. Right, like the year before, I took her up to the family's property in Fraser, and we had stayed at the cabin, and it was cake. She was
yeah,
spoiled on the first elk hunt.
yeah,
And she had an opportunity, but we weren't able to capitalize. And this year it was like, all right, we're gonna make it happen. So I warned her ahead of time, and we kind of trained for it. Like same thing, communication and being open about it. But the most important thing that I did is I wasn't pressuring. Everything that we did was her choice.
yeah,
Everything. If she'd sit there and ask me my opinion, I'd give her my opinion and say, if we do this, this is where we're at. But everything we did was her choice, so the hunt was at her pace and her speed. And I think that right there is going to be the ultimate factor in her wanting to do it again. But I also think it scares her to death because she enjoyed it so much.
yeah,
yep,
So, like,
100%.
long story more, we get up there that opening day, and this is an area that I know is super overhunted. There's always the pumpkin army, but if we do it right, we're going to find out. We found a couple elk that opening or that night before the opener. That morning of the opener, we stayed in a different location, kind of stayed down low to see what we could find. Didn't see crap. That evening, we went right back to where we saw the elk the night before, verified they were there, just had to decide on whether or not we wanted to make a trip in there because it's like a 4 mile hike in. It's a normal elk hunt. It's not a drive down the two track and shoot an elk.
yeah,
So we kind of thought about it, him hawed around it, and sitting back at camp that night after the opening morning, I was like, here's the deal. We know where the elk are. You never leave elk to find elk. Let's make the trip in. And if you decide you want to shoot that bull, we'll figure it out. If you decide you don't want to shoot the bull, I'm not going to be disappointed in you. This is this is your hunt,
yeah,
and I will respect the decision that you want to make. But we know where the elk are. Let's go take a look. So that next morning, that Sunday morning, we get up there, and sure shit, here they are. There's the elk, of course, right where I knew they were going to be. So we kind of get in there and we take a look around and we start thinking about it. And she's kind of discouraged at this point already, right? Like she expected to shoot an elk quick, be done with
yeah,
it. She's not. She hasn't really had a long term backcountry hunt. And so I look at her, I'm like, okay, so this is exactly how we're going to play this. If you want to do it, we got to take this mile trek from where we parked the truck. It's 1,000 foot drop over a mile. We go straight to the bottom. There's this small chunk of public. We walk straight through the public, and then we go straight back up another 1,000 feet over like a mile and a half. We crest out on the ridge. We drop down another 500 feet on the other side of that ridge, and you're going to have a 400 to 500 yard shot at that elk on the opposite valley side. And that'll be the play.
Yeah.
So we get in there, we do the thing, and it was slightly more overgrown than I remember it being. Uh, she wasn't very happy about that. We were on our hands and knees crawling through oak brush with a rifle. That was phenomenal.
Oh yeah, dude. I'd be like,
But
this
I mean,
is so
oh yeah, she wasn't very pleased about that. So we get all the way up on top. We do exactly what I said, and it probably took us 2 or 3 hours to cover the distance because it's not hard, but it's hard, right? Like it's just steady, and it's
yeah.
nasty sagebrush, oak brush. And within 15 minutes of being on that opposite hillside, I glassed that bull up from the way. He's just a good little 4 point, great little legal bull. We sat on that bull all freaking day because the sun was 100% on our eyes the entire time. We could see him clear as day through the binos, but every time we throw the scope on him just to try to find him, you couldn't see shit.
Yeah.
Just too much glare, too much distortion, wasn't there. I didn't have a honeycomb. Like it was just sucked. And at one point, the outfitter actually came over top of the ridge and pushed a bunch of the elk out of the area and actually pushed that bull up and over the other side. And he got spooked and came all the way back down into a different area and bedded at like
Hmm.
1 o'clock. So we were actually getting ready to leave that place. So she's getting discouraged. It's rolling around at like 3 o'clock. She doesn't know if she wants to shoot this bull or not because she wanted to shoot a really good mature elk. Hats off to her for being a conservationist and a hunter, right? Like 100% agree with her. And I looked at her and I said the exact same thing. We're not going to leave an elk to go find an elk. We know this elk's here. We haven't had a really good look at him through the scope. When he stands up, if you decide you want to shoot him, we'll shoot him. If you don't, guess what? We'll walk our way back to truck. We'll have some good dinner. We'll think about it and we'll come up with a plan for tomorrow and we'll figure something else out. Like this is your hunt. I don't want you to shoot an elk that you're not comfortable with. And like 4 o'clock rolls around. I look at her. I'm like, stay on the binos. He's going to stand up in like 30 minutes. Guaranteed in 30 minutes, he's going to stand up. I'm over there throwing all the gear in the packs, getting everything ready. And all I hear is, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. I'm like, what? Why are you yelling? He's standing, he's standing. I'm like, oh, okay. Here I am being casual. Like, we got time. This bull's 500 yards away. I told her take her time and figure out if she wants to shoot it. I get over to the binos. I'm like, hey, go ahead and get set up on the gun, get comfortable. It's your fourth reticle. She's shooting my 7 short action ultra mag that I've got sighted in out to like 1,000 yards. The gun's capable. Uh, and I'm like, all right, so let's make a decision here if you want to shoot this elk. We've got time. It's 4:30, pushing 5 o'clock at this point. And I'm sitting there. I'm just kind of watching the elk. I'm like, he's a good 4 point. He's probably got 10-inch brows. He's not a super old bull. He's probably 4. Um, and all I hear is click. I immediately like look around. I kind of get out of the binos and I look at her fingers going to the trigger. I'm like, oh, shenanigans. Shut the front
It's
door. Okay,
happening.
we're doing it. Yeah, understood. Copy that. Didn't expect this, right? The entire
Yeah.
time I didn't think we were going to shoot this elk because she wasn't sure if she wanted to.
Yeah.
So here I am freaking out right now. Binos are in the set. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching this bull and I'm watching this bull and she might yell at me for telling the story, but she she gets comfortable and she kind of has a tendency to raise a little bit when she goes to shoot. Or excuse me, she raises. She was aiming a little funky and just sent it right over this bull's back at
Hmm.
502 yards. This bull had no idea what happened, right? We're in a valley. He doesn't know where the sound's coming from. I'm like, hey, you're a smidge high, reload, fourth reticle, take a break. No longer did I get the fourth reticle out of my mouth when I hear, what? I look and this bull is just endoing down the mountain. And I'm like, what the frick just happened? Well, she broke his back just a smidge high again, right? Like he was kind of a little bit of above us, up through the front shoulder, broke his back. Well, he's laying there and he's still breathing and his head's up at four or was it 503 yards at this point. And I look at her, I'm like, all right, you can shoot. Understood. Copy that. I'm never gonna piss you off again. I
Yeah.
said, all right, if you look at that bull right now, and she finds him in the scope, you see where the yellow and the brown meet at his neck. Pick a spot right in there, 6 inches from where the ground's at up. And she's like, all right, I'm good. Okay, whenever you're comfortable, take the shot. She sends this freaking bullet, 502 yards or whatever the hell it is, through a gap the size of like, I don't know, a large dinner plate charger. I know those things now because, working with the CBA at banquets, I know what a charger is.
You're cultured now.
Uh, yeah, yeah, I'm cultured. I'm like a actual sophisticated human being. Sends that bullet into that bull and just breaks his neck and wrecks him right there. Bull's done. And this is when it all starts to hit, right? Like she's getting emotional, and this is the fun part that we're talking about with introducing new people or even kids. She's getting emotional, like, holy crap, what did I just do? Here it is. Now I'm excited. And then the anxiety hits. And this was probably the most challenging part is being being the spouse in the hunting situation. Most hunters, when we get up to an elk, the first thing we think about is, all right, how are we getting out of here? What are we doing? She broke her back about 4 years ago,
Hmm.
and we were training with weight all summer long, getting ready to do it. She helped me pack out my bull. She did great. It wasn't too bad. But this was the first time that we were going to have to pack an elk out multiple trips over a very long distance. We get over there and we start quartering this bull out. And she looks at me and she says, I only want to do this once.
Like one trip?
Yeah. And I look at her and I'm like, you sure? I don't. I mean, yeah, we came in pretty light. All we had was a gun, a camera, and some day food and snacks. We both had 3 pounds of water. And she says, I want to do it in one trip. And I think this again goes all down to that communication, like making this hunt what she wanted to. She wanted to earn this thing the whole time. She wanted to be the chick that shot an elk, packed it out, did all the stuff. Here we are at that moment of here it comes. We deboned this elk. I threw both fronts, back straps, and scrap meat in her pack. And then I took both hinds. No, excuse me. She took the fronts, back straps, and head. I took everything else. She had 150-pound pack for the first time in her life.
Dude,
And she
that's
carried that son of a biscuit out 3+ miles from where we were at that point. And then the last mile was straight up. We finished packing that bull elk out at midnight. I think it was, I told her I want to be back to the truck by 11:59. You put us in a situation and you said you want to do this all in one trip. My pace,
Yeah.
which come to find out hurt me more than it did her. I feel like I'm getting old and I about died for the next week. We got back to the truck at 11:59. I got this picture and this is what it all comes down to, right? Like she didn't even realize we were back at the truck. And I popped the tailgate, threw everything down, and I still had my pack on because I'm like, okay, this is gonna be cool, right? I'm filming her as this is all happening. And I get this picture of her setting, like turning around, dropping her pack, then turning around and just boom, here
yeah,
come the water. Here comes the
yeah.
emotion of holy crap, what did we just do? And that was when I knew that this hunt was exactly what she wanted. And she's now going to be a badass backcountry hunter.
Oh, that's
And
fun.
when you talk about getting a spouse into hunting, I'm not going to toot my own horn here, but I think I did the right way. It was her hunt the whole way, allowing her to do what she wanted to do, how she wanted to do it, and supporting her the entire time. Uh, yeah, man, like it was surreal. It was absolutely epic.
That's amazing. That's freaking badass and awesome advice all around for anybody who's looking to get spouse or loved one or whoever involved in hunting and especially those types of hunts. You know, Bobby and I went with training wheels for our first antelope hunt, which a lot there's just a lot less variables, right? When you're hunting like that, we're not backcountry. You're doing day hunts. So doing it proper like that and packing out an entire animal like that with just the two of you, kudos to her, man. She sounds awesome.
Yeah, we'll see what happens next year because if she shoots one that far away again, she's on her own.
Yeah, right.
So you say. Until you're
Uh,
Netflix and chill on top of the mountain again at 1,300 feet or whatever you're at.
yeah, just 1,300 feet. That's it, Bobby.
1,300 feet.
Yeah, 1,300.
Don't
That's
add
it.
another zero on that.
But you're
Man,
a
that's
quarter of
freaking
the way
awesome.
up.
I love that,
It's
dude.
definitely been a year for the books, man. It's been pretty incredible. You know, we've had some great hunts, but that one right there was by far the. I shot a 380-inch bull, but I
Yeah,
don't give two craps about it. What I care about is that freaking elk kind of hers. This is the
yeah,
most epic thing ever. You know,
yeah.
from the moment where she's like, "Yeah, maybe I want to shoot him, maybe I don't," to click. What are you doing?
Oh,
Oh, gotta love it, man.
so
Like that's the greatest thing ever. I can't wait until our girls get into it,
heck yeah, that's freaking
or at
awesome,
least
man.
till they're big enough to wear a pack and they can start packing out a quarter piece.
That's right. Give them
Then
the
bring
back
all of
straps.
them. Yeah. Then you'll definitely do it in
Yeah,
one easy trip.
Have a little
yep,
army with you.
yep.
That's awesome. I, we're at 50 minutes here, man, but I sure would love to hear about your mule deer too. I was really glad. We've been planning this podcast for 2, 3 weeks, something like that, and you had a uh, a troubled hunt. You were pretty down in the dumps after a particular deer hunt you had recently, and then once we nailed down a date, you actually had some success after that. A little bit of a redemption arc, man, and I was really stoked to see that kind of come to fruition before we could chat about it, man. But can you talk about your low point and your high point with your deer?
Yeah, I'll break it down to Marty style, you know, and just kind of keeping true to where we're at on the spouse side of it. You know, she's supported me through this entire process. You know, during hunting season, I eat, sleep, and breathe hunting all the way from, well, let's be honest, March when I'm picking up sheds to till the end of December. There's only a 3 month break for hunting. And this year I kind of set out with that goal in mind that I wanted to shoot a Boone and Crockett class whitetail with my bow. And there's a couple running around that I had eyes on, and here we go. Well, long story boring, that all shit hit the fan when I found a beautiful non-typical buck and a giant typical buck. Muleys that have been watching for a while, and they just absolutely blew up, and they turned into my new target bucks for the year. Well, and what Carter's talking about here is, well, mule deer are my nemesis with bow. They have been, they always will. You know, 2 years ago, I missed a 200-inch buck 3 times in one day. Nicknamed Splits, who I later watched poached. That was pretty phenomenal. And then here we go, fast forward to the first bad snow on the Eastern Plains here. And I've got the big typical buck that I ended up harvesting at 35 yards, raking sagebrush in front of me. And I airmail it, just straight airmail it. I'm at full draw, like shaking, my teeth are clattering, I can't get a pin steady. I'm like, gone, sent it. Then to make matters worse, he only walks out to like 50 yards. I'm like, okay, yeah, I got the jitters out. I got this, no problem. Here we go. Full draw, even worse. Shaking there. And I've got does licking the ground blind at this whole process, like licking my freaking ground blind while I'm at full draw. Well, I missed that one too. There we go. There's twice in a matter of like 10 minutes. Here comes the big non-typical buck, following him, 30 yards behind it. Had no idea what happened. Well, that big non-typical buck stops at 40 yards. Oh yeah, I got this, 2 arrows down. I'm a bow hunter. I got the shit. Right back to it. Shaking worse than I was the first. And needless to say, I airmailed 5 arrows in a matter of 30 minutes on two of the biggest bucks that I've ever seen when it comes to like having a bow in hand. Just to have them stand at 75 yards for the next hour and meander around in front of me while I could see my luminox of the 5 arrows
Just
Oh,
lighting
man.
up
all out
like a runway.
Oh yeah, it was great. You know, it was like, oh, look at the Christmas lights and the giant deer in front of them. Well, long story boring. I fast forward to a week ago. I think it was a week ago now. Might have been, yeah, a week ago now. we hadn't really seen the bucks a lot. They'd kind of been disappeared and they weren't really showing up a lot. And they typically do that. They like go disappear for a couple days and come back, and so be it. And I'm driving around and I see that big typical buck. I'm like, oh crap, here we go. And I've got a lease that's really close to where he's at. So I park my truck, I grab my bow, and I start hucking it down my lease to get back to that ground blind that I missed him out of because he was going to walk right by it. That's the path they take when they go by that ground blind. Well, I'm no longer, but or no further than like 60 yards from my truck when I hear somebody on the gravel road behind me. And I turn around and I look, and here comes that freaking buck pushing the doe straight over the fence, and I am nowhere near ready. Nowhere near what I need to be. I dropped to my knees, got down behind a piece of sagebrush, and just waited. 30 seconds later, he's standing broadside at 56 yards for me. And I come to full draw, and he just kind of looks at me, and he takes a step right as I release my arrow. And it was a little high and a little touch forward, and I ended up missing his shoulder on his right side and broke his opposite shoulder, and that arrow bedded in his opposite shoulder at 56 yards. Devastated, because like I know this isn't a killing arrow, and that's the worst feeling you can have as a bow. Like this is not a killing arrow. That buck is gonna die, but he's not gonna die today.
Yeah.
I followed him for the next half hour till it was dark, and he walked right over to the neighboring property that I've got access to when I need it. And I watched that buck until midnight with a luminoc out of his shoulder.
Hmm.
He wouldn't bed down. He wouldn't follow his does, and he just stood out in the middle of that hayfield till midnight. Well, I showed up the next morning. It got down to like 10, 15 degrees that night, and I think, he's going to get cold, stiff, and die. And at 8 a.m., I glass him up in this stand of trees, and he's alive. By himself, just head up, alert, and alive, and my heart just drops, thinking I'm never going to get a chance like this again. Shenanigans. So I make some phone calls. I get access back to the property. I sneak around the other side, and he rebeds. And I can see that he's hurting bad. He's still limping. He's not feeling solid. He's only moving like 10 or 20 feet and then he beds, 10 or 20 feet and then he beds. So I worked all the way back around to when I originally spotted him, and it was about a 400-yard stalk that I had to put on in there. And I called my buddy who's got the property access. He's the owner, well, one of the owners of a company called Ursai. They're a new camo brand. And he also was one of the part owners of DRV North Archery. Well, I call him like, hey, he's on your property. He's like, yeah, no problem. I just got to be there for the recovery. Get in there and do that. Do what you need to do. We do this stuff together all the time because we all give each other access. And he pulls up and he's watching and he's watching, he's watching, he's watching. And this is a stock that I've watched him and his brother make, 100 times over the past 3 years, and they've never been successful. So the odds are stacked against me right now. But this buck bedded perfectly behind this like little juniper tree and these two Russian olives. And as soon as the wind was right, I could literally stand up and walk the 400 yards on either side of these 4-foot Russian olives, and he couldn't see me because he was facing north and he wasn't looking south. So I walked to 40 yards from this buck. Then the wind started to pick up, and I start to sneak out behind those Russian olives so I can get an arrow in there at him. And he's laying down, and there's no shot. There's too many little pine tree needles and crap kind of covering his vitals. So I look back, and if you're a bow hunter, when you get sub 40 yards, it's game time. Well, there's a freaking barbed wire fence between me and the buck. And I've got to cross that barbed wire fence in order for me to get to where I need to be to make a shot. So I stand up, I grab my ultimate predator decoy, my little doe, old Delilah, and I cross this barbed wire fence. And for some reason, Mother Nature loved me. And like a 15, 20 mile an hour wind kicked up for the next couple minutes and covered all noise. Because I'm sure it sounded like I was making an absolute ruckus of a hurricane. At least I knew that if I screwed it up, he was going to stand up and I would actually have a clear shot. So I cross the barbed wire fence and I keep getting closer and I keep getting closer and I go to reach around, I go to shoot. Still can't really shoot between that like crap in the way. I get to 19 yards from that buck.
Damn.
And my buddy, I look back and he's losing his mind in his pickup truck. Like hands flailing everywhere. I know he's cussing me out. I
Yeah.
know he's pissed off. I know exactly what he's too close. You're too close, right? Well, I knock my arrow. I creep off to the side of the Russian olive tree that's in the way. I come to full draw, and my nock is pinched. My arrow is kicked out of my V rest, and I can't get it to go back into my rest. So I
Oh
got
my
to let
god.
down. This is 19 yards. I twist that sucker, and I'm like, all right, I got this. I go back to full draw, and I look up right as I go to full draw, and the buck's starting to stand up. My arrow is still pinched. My nock is just not having it. I reach over with my finger. I slide it back into the V. I'm like, all right, three. The only shot I have because he's standing up on it. So 3, 2, 1. Arrow release of that arrow. And I smoke that buck straight through the liver, and he goes 20 yards and piles. Like this has been an epic year, boys.
Yeah.
I quit.
Yeah. Yep. Man, that's fantastic. That feeling does suck, man. I'm super thankful you got to finish it and put him down and get your hands on him, dude. Doesn't always happen that
I
way.
think like that's a testament as a hunter, right? Like you get in those situations as a bow hunter or a rifle hunter. In my mind, my tag was notched. If
Yeah.
I wasn't going to kill this buck or find this buck dead, my tag was notched any way you look at it.
Yeah.
And the worst
100%.
feeling in the world is being an animal as a bow hunter. And that was where the drive was for me at that point, right? Like I didn't care how big he was. It's like I took a shot, I screwed it up, I got to finish this buck.
Yeah.
And that's a different level of emotion that I've never really had. Like it kept me up all night, sick to the stomach, even during the stalk. Like you've got to be a better hunter in that situation. That was one of the toughest moments I've ever had.
But it worked out, dude. You've had a stellar season, man.
Yep.
It's been pretty epic. It's been very humbling. That's for one way to put it. Definitely reminded me exactly why I do what I do. Had the opportunity to help out a lot of people through the season. Obviously, help out Christy and get her as involved into this stuff as I am, and starting to work with the kids. Like it's been an eye opener season for me to kind of remind myself why I do it. I had some great success, but the journey was the most important part of it.
Yep. Absolutely,
Even just
man.
like talk with you boys about this stuff, right? Like that's the most important part.
Yeah, I was gonna say, dude, thank you for that opportunity, man. It's been a long time coming, and sometimes it's important to take the step back and to think about why we actually do all these things that we do, man. But I love it. Yeah, we're rolling up over an hour here, man. Again, thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for chatting. I always love hearing the fun stories, man, from your friends. The only thing that can make it better is if we were in person. But you got any closing
Absolutely,
thoughts
yeah.
for us? You got any closing thoughts for us, man?
Uh, the biggest thing for me throughout the season was just rethinking how I hunt to get other people involved in it. And if you're struggling getting your spouse involved or getting your kids involved, maybe it's time to rethink how you hunt and focus on making the hunt about them.
Mm.
And that's been probably the most eye-opening thing for me is I hunt hard. Everybody hunts the way I do. And to
Yeah,
get my wife involved in it and to get her to where I want to be in it, like it took me a step back. And honestly, it was the most fun I've ever had to hunt. And I've gotta get back to that, right? Like it's not always just about going as deep as you can, as hard as you can. I love solo hunting, but I love hunting with her. I want to spend those time with her. Like we shouldn't have to have a podcast to talk about this. You guys should have been there with me.
yeah,
Yeah.
That's the
yeah,
same thing. Same thing with her. Like I don't want to tell her about my story. I want her to be there. So
yeah.
I definitely encourage people to get their spouses into it if it's something they've never wanted, or if it's something they want to do and never had the opportunity to. Just take the time to make the hunt about them, not you them. Don't lose focus of that. It's their hunt.
Yep.
Love that, man. Bobby, you got anything?
No, man, I just, it's always great to hear Caleb talk about all the successful hunts. And, we talk about like not ruining hunts for people and getting people involved. And Saturday, I finally got that phone call from my brother that smoked his first deer ever. And I was like, I'm in the middle of a store and I was like screaming. Caleb's like, why are you fucking yelling? I'm like, he fucking smoked one. And I'm wondering what people are thinking, like, what are they thinking of what I'm hearing? But it's just such a great feeling. And, I'm sure it was a weight off his shoulder and it was a weight off mine too, just getting that phone call finally from him.
Hell yeah. I love it. Love hearing the success, boys and listeners. Love hearing y'all's success. So, write us in, shoot us a message on Instagram and share that success with us and share your pictures, man. Love seeing those and sharing those with everybody. That's kind of what it's all about. But yeah, this is a good maybe a part one. Maybe we should wrap it up with a part two at the end of I still have a lot of season left here in Georgia, so I'd love to chat with you boys again
Say, you
sometime
boys
soon.
got a lot of time left.
That's right. That's
I
right.
need to start getting some pictures here, some sexual stuff while chasing birds with a bow. I want to start seeing you guys. Let's kill some deer, man.
I
Heck
haven't even been
yeah.
out yet. It's terrible.
Yeah, Bobby, what do you do, man? You need to get out.
Life,
Yeah.
man.
They have
and
deer in
fishing
rural New
season.
Jersey.
Oh, they got a couple of them. But the fishing's
got
been
a
so good. So, you don't want to stop one thing.
That's right. That's right. Well, stay tuned for everybody's success, listeners. As always, we appreciate the hell out of you guys. We'll talk to you next week.